Welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. So this is Tuesday evenings, 9:10. I'll just get a few things ready over here on my other monitor. Starting a bit earlier than usual. And welcome to another Kingscrusher. Let's mute that. So hi all on PlayChat and streaming to YouTube. Okay, we're going to carry on the Kasparov Greatest Game series. I think there's a lot of interest in this series. Kasparov has made so many fantastic games based on his fantastic moves. And okay, the first game that I'd like to go over is another game he had against Lev Polugaevsky. So this game was in Moscow, played in Moscow, 1979. Now I'm actually a few minutes, a few minutes earlier than I mentioned on the YouTube stream, because I'm setting up actually some special stuff this week. So I hope let's ask though. I hope you're all enjoying the Kasparov series so far. Just let me know on PlayChat or YouTube. It's pretty good, I think. So anyway, let's get into this first game. So against Polugaevsky, we have e4 from Kasparov. Polugaevsky plays a Sicilian defense. We have knight f3. d6. We go into an open Sicilian. Actually, let's put on a bit as usual. Make it France. Stability. So we go into here. We have, instead of a6, which is quite usual, we have Scheveningen with e6. So black hasn't played that Najdorf move. We have bishop e3 here. Quite often the Keres attack is played actually. That's quite a popular move to play in this position against e6 rather than a6, because black has committed that pawn. Quite often, if a6, g4, maybe then e5 in one go. But because black's already committed the pawn to e6, it's more tempting to play the Keres attack. That's a little finesse actually, I believe. On a6, instead of e6, I don't think g4 is that high up a move at all actually. It's not actually yet. Livebook confirms that the move g4, well, you can't play this anyway, also technically it actually loses a pawn. That's another little finesse to bear in mind. It does stop, in fact, a6 does in fact stop the Keres attack. If you play e6 immediately, yeah, g4 is possible and is the most popular move. I'll try and stay awake for the rest of this. Yeah, okay. Yes, other reasons, but also, you know, the pawn doesn't want to waste too much time. Okay. So we have here, after knight c3, e6, actually we have bishop e3. Kasparov is delaying a Keres attack, but in fact, a6 here, he does in fact play the move g4 now. So some of what I mentioned is relevant. The bishop is blocked in at the moment with that pawn, and if black plays something like e5, I mean, e5 has been played, but the knight can slip into f5 and we can get a very, very sharp position indeed. There's been some razor sharp games, like for example this, a knight sack and it goes a bit crazy. I think Kasparov has played this as well as white. I mean, Judith Polgar definitely, I think, has beaten Vishianand in this line. Very interesting line with e5 there. But in this game, actually, we don't get e5, which is a very popular response here for this kind of delayed Keras attack. Black actually played knight c6, and white does press on with g5 here, gaining some space. Knight d7, rook g1, just supporting that pawn. Rook g1. We have bishop e7 and h4 supporting the pawn again. If queen d2 here, I think this might be a mistake actually. Well, potentially, maybe it's not. I was just thinking about this. Now the pawn's adequately supported. Queen d is possible as well. But anyway, h4 was played. Black castled, pressing on h5. So not even making any kind of attempt to castle queenside. Kasparov is just pressing on with his two pawns here. Knight d e5. This might be a little mistake here. I mean, I don't know. It's getting a little bit scary for black. The Scheveningen is not supposed to be this scary, and white, you know, as though it's not bothered to even castle. So anyway, we have knight d e5. And now knight takes c6. It's an interesting decision actually, because if b takes c6, I think in fact white might be able to play f4. This position is quite pleasant. It looks like really aggressive pawns. But anyway, black actually took with the knight. Might be a little bit better. f4 anyway. b5, queen f3, bishop b7. It seems quite logical for both sides at the moment. Although in this position, yeah, Kasparov played bishop d3. He's not yet touching his pawns. Bishop d3, knight b4. Pressure on the center, and again Kasparov is not really bothered about castling in this game. It seems he just plays f5. So really aggressive pawns coming to meet the black king side. It's really direct stuff, this game. Quite shocking, I suppose. You could say this game's a bit of a shock to the system, because I think procedurally, well, club players, I mean, we like to sort of castle, don't we, before pursuing active operations. I mean, as a general rule, with the king still in the centre, how is black actually exploiting the king still in the centre? Is not, and he's getting these pawns lining up against his king. It's kind of scary. So, yeah, what does black actually do? Well, he played e takes f5 in the game. Okay, queen takes f5, so at least he's isolated the e pawn, it seems like something. Knight takes d3, but now he's strengthening in a way the e pawn, but getting that light square bishop. Queen c8 to try and trade off the queens. Now here, h6, installing a fawn pawn. Yes, fawn pawn. Already one of my favourite ideas for winning chess. The fawn pawn, dreaded, scary, around the opponent's king. So all of this, in fact, might have been just to get this fawn pawn. All this advancing without castling gets white this fawn pawn. And it's difficult, actually. What does black do about it? If he plays g6, let's examine g6. There's actually a nifty move in this position. Here, this is quite interesting. The queen actually doesn't have to go back. If the queen goes back, I think black might even have f5 there. That wouldn't be a good square. Queen goes back here. Sorry, then queen takes h3. I really need to get more coffee next time. Sorry, I've had a long day actually. Queen f2. Again, f5 is good. But actually apparently there's a really strong move. If g6 had been played, there's actually a really strong reply here. Can you see on stream, anyone that's on stream or play chess, white actually has a move here which gains an advantage in this position. The queen doesn't have to retreat. Can you see what white can play here? It's very interesting. Well, when I say very interesting, I mean I don't mean mega interesting. I mean, you know, mildly interesting. Maybe is better adjective. Mildly interesting. White to play. It's not a big deal actually. I'll just say knight d5 can be played here with the idea of forking black. And if bishop takes, then white actually has a small advantage. So if g takes, yeah, we can fork here, and this is good actually. Bishop d4 check. Actually, things get a lot more fun here. This would be a disaster for black if in fact he did take the queen. Oh, this is a nifty variation actually, because here after f6, even g takes f6 is really strong, threatening f7 mate, and then we can take the queen, and it's actually gigantic advantage for white. But the safest on g6 knight d5, black can just take on d5. We take the queen here, then again knight takes e7, e takes e5. That's a big advantage for white. Okay, so knight d5 was available in the event of g6, so that's interesting. But anyway, black, so this position here after h6, g6, knight d5, but black here played rook e8. Rook e8. Now, I mean, it seems scary. H takes g7, but Polugaevsky is getting the queens off, and technically Fritz actually likes black's position, you know, a bit. It gives advantage actually to black here. Now, this is the young Kasparov. This is 1979. He's on his way up, tearing through the ranks. And maybe, just maybe, white's play hasn't actually been great. I mean, maybe it's been overly dramatic, these pawns going towards black's king. Because here, after bishop takes g5, what can we say white has here? Rook takes g5, rook takes e3, rook f3 is played. I mean, black technically seems fine. Okay, we have knight e4. There is a mate in one threat with knight f6, which needs to be parried. But black can take it, and he does. D takes. And here now we have rook e8. Again, it seems as though black's fine here, in theory. Okay, we have rook c1, and there is a back row issue with that pawn. Black cannot consider taking here because this would be mate in 2 because of that pawn. But this is where I think black starts slipping up. It might be okay just to play the check here and play rook takes b2. Apparently there's no major disaster here for black, but in the game what we get is actually d5. Polugaevsky plays d5, and quite a nifty response actually, just e5. So again the rook can't take. We have h6. Now this really might be the first major mistake, playing h6 in this position. and I think this has been pointed out by kibitzers, for example, at chessgames.com. H6 is an error. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. What is white actually threatening in particular? I'm not entirely sure actually, but black could say do this still, and there is no major. Okay, we could lock the pawns like this, and it looks as though the rook is confined, but how does white actually progress this? How? I think maybe just the fact that black's tied up, actually. This is unpleasant. This is unpleasant. It's like playing a rook down. So, yeah, the prospects are actually still with white. Okay, anyway, h6 kind of hastens to the end. There seems to be very strong moves available here. Rook h5 was played, which is a good move. Apparently, this is completely crushing rook h1. I suspect the reason is if here we play f6, threatening mate, to which black can't do a thing about really. Well, I mean, he could try and delay things, but it's not nice, this position. We go back to, if here we go back to that mating there, and if the king tries to escape in this position, here we have rook h8 kind of queening soon. So it does seem rook h1 was immediately crushing here, rook h1, but yeah, and if takes, we just take that. It looks crushing. Yeah, it looks as though there's no response to rook h1, but Kasparov actually played maybe a little mistake in return. Maybe you could argue then rook h5, and black could have maybe tried to snatch this pawn. It seems king takes g7 might be playable, but we have instead rook takes e5, and the crush is on again. A great move here, which again secures white a gigantic advantage. Gigantic. Can you see white's play here? So it seems both players kind of slipped up there. H6, then rook h5 wasn't as optimal as rook h1, but now Kasparov really does, you know, grab the bull by the horns here. He really does. This next move, okay, can you guess white's play on stream? If I give you 20 seconds, what does white play in this position? It makes sure his trump cards don't go away. They're being used very effectively. Rook c6. No. Actually, it's not rook c6. Rook c6. Black can actually, apparently, black can take this pawn either way and be okay. Lose 100 points. I'll show you. Get 200 points for this move. Whoever said it. f6. So it doesn't matter about the rook. Because takes like check and queening, doesn't really matter about the rook. And on, say, well, rook f2 check was chosen in the game. If rook takes f6, then we just take this rook, actually. Yeah, so there's a kind of double attack on rook c8 and also the rook. Yeah, so black tries rook f2 check. And now we have king d3. And what is black trying to achieve here? He's got to parry this double attack, this rook c8 check and rook takes e5. How on earth can he get out of this? One thing to point out, if the king stepped back, then this is equal apparently. Well, if the king cannot make progress there because of perpetuals, and if here, that blocks the c8 rook. I just had deja vu. I'm sure I've covered this on the channel. Then rook takes h5 is possible. Black's a rook up, winning. So the only way to go here to win this game is forward. Can't go on the c file because of rook takes e5. And here would just, otherwise it'd be perpetual check. So it has to go forward. We have check here. Goes forward again, hitting the rook now with the king. Rook e4 check. So that gets out of that threat. But now there's another one. King takes d5 and rook c8. So rook c8 now is emerging as the principal threat to address. Because then we got g8. So the rook steps back for that one. But now rook takes h6, threatening rook h8. It's worked like a dream. These form pawns have actually worked like a dream. Got two of them around black's king. We have check. Now is king d6 possible? Not advisable because of rook e6 check. And if here, just taking this one, and this pawn's dropping off, everything's dropped off. Can't do that. Cannot do that. Careful, cannot do that. So instead king d4 keeps all the big advantage now. Check. Now the king actually steps this way. King c5. There's a gigantic difference here. Because after check, in fact, now the gigantic difference after king b6 is we can answer, we can meet rook e6 with rook c6 to hold on to our f6 pawn. So rook e6, rook c6. Yes! Winning! We've got rook h8. Black can't take on f6. It's end of game. Black resigns. Over. If rook takes c6, for example, you know, what do we do about rook? Yeah, it's hopeless. So that was like a study-like end to this game, in fact, and I appreciate it more actually going over with you. It's a very study-like win. How the king, if we just rewind that last phase, the king had to carefully take out the d5 pawn, then kind of come back to step to the left to go to allow rook c6. Study like. It's quite beautiful, huh? Now, what do we say about the rest of the game, though? I think Kasparov was a bit nuts in this game. He didn't castle, he just went for it with his pawns. Technically, the engines didn't like White's play, but in practice, you know, one slip up from Black, which did happen, then White's got a big advantage. He's installed these very, very dangerous form pawns around Black's king. So, yeah, very interesting game to check out. The young Kasparov, maybe a bit confident with his attacking chess, not even castling first. What do you think about this game? Do you think it's a good one? I thought the end is quite beautiful, the way to, you know, make sure the f6 pawn, the form pawn, wasn't being removed. That's a critical thing. Okay, let's go on to another game. We're going over 3 games. Why not rook, question on why not rook a8 immediately? I'm not sure when is that. I'm not sure when that was. Sorry, I can't comprehend the question on stream. Let's go on to another game. Maybe just leave it as a comment on the YouTube channel if you actually got any questions now. Okay, so right, another one. Now this is interesting because it was against Milan Vukic, and I think because Kasparov was really young at the time, he protested about Kasparov being in this tournament, saying, "Oh, we're grandmasters, and why are they sending us this little kid who hasn't even got a FIDE rating?" Kasparov was actually without any FIDE rating. It was in this like Banja Luka 1979 tournament. So Vukic, according to ChessGames.com, he's still around, he's 73 years old, awarded the GM title 4 years earlier to this game, 1975. He won the Yugoslav Championship multiple times actually, 1970, 71, 74 and 1994. And was first at Banja Luka 1974, so 5 years earlier he had won this tournament. So very strong. First at Varna 1975, first at Luka 1976, first at Zemun 1980. So anyway, yeah, apparently the story goes that he was objecting to Kasparov being inflicted on the grandmasters. It's pronounced Vucic. I believe you. I don't know. There's no pronunciation help for that name at ChessGames.com. I'll say Vucic if that's better. Sorry, I'm just reading it as if it's English. Vucic? I don't know. So anyway, here we go. So c4 from Kasparov, the English opening. Knight f6, knight c3, g6. We get king's Indian defense, but actually black doesn't play like the main line e5 here. This is like the main line by far. He plays this surprise move bishop g4, which, as we know, Kasparov played very unsuccessfully recently in an exhibition tournament, you know, that blitz chess against Wesley So, and got demolished with this bishop g4 move. But here Kasparov is facing bishop g4, so as it's a surprise move. It's way down the list. There's e5, knight a6 for the King's Indian experts, knight bd7, c5, and then bishop g4. There's a bit down the list. It's got its purposes, to pressurize d4, to try and maybe close the center. Bishop e3 is the main move. Knight fd7, immediate pressure on d4. Now there's two main moves. Rook c1, or what Kasparov played, knight g1, is very popular, to try and get this knight holding up d4 again on the exchange. Black can't really move the bishop back without getting trapped. Bang, end of game. So black is obliged here, after blocking his bishop, to take on e2. Knight g takes e2, and now either c5 or e5 according to live book is played here. c5 usually, but in this game we see e5. White now castled kingside. Quite often knight c6 is played now. There's quite a lot of games with knight c6 which run with d5, this position. It's thought to be about equal. But here we see a5 in this game. Queen d2. Now knight c6. White is not obliged to play d5 here, in fact. He plays actually f3, just keeping that central tension for a bit more. And black uses this opportunity just to play actually e takes d4. And now knight c5. Trade-offs here, really. Black's got this little pawn center. One feature of this position is a knight coming to b5. It'll be difficult for black to arrange c6 without weakening that d6 pawn even more. So, okay, rook 81, building up the pressure on d6. And now, yeah, this is like positional torture here a bit. After knight e6, knight db5. How does black get out of this bind? And it has actually a significance to me, this whole little positional idea. knight b5. I remember as a junior, I'd won the Lloyd's under 18, and I was invited to some junior seminars. One was with John Nunn, and he was talking about his 2 games with Korchnoi, which he was lucky to win both. And in one of those, Korchnoi had installed a knight on b5, because John Nunn had actually positionally blundered a bit like this, and there was just no way of getting rid of the knight on b5. You can't do that here. It's positionally bad for black because of this knight on b5. It's torture for black. This structure with the knight here and with a5 being played. You can't kick the knight. If you try and kick it, you're just weakening d6. I just remember that. It was just an idea. It stuck in my mind as you get this knight on b5. So Vukic's really not doing well here at the moment, from that angle at least. But can he generate counterplay? Kasparov is young, right? Surely you can generate counterplay against him. Rook e8. Okay, what is black actually threatening with rook e8? Not too much. We have queen c1, which gives the idea now, with this pressure on and now pinning that pawn with the rook, c5 is on the cards. Black gets the queen out of the way. It looks a very awkward location for the queen, very awkward on b8. So black is struggling. Bishop h6. Black wants to keep the King's Indian bishop. I think Kasparov has called it a kind of sin if you give up your King's Indian bishop too easily in some of his books where he's annotated his own games. You don't really want to give up the King's Indian bishop. You're left with those horrible weaknesses, usually, as a general rule. So knight d5 was played here. Now this knight is actually defending c7 in this position. c7 is adequately defended for a moment. Knight b4. Yes, black might be actually threatening to snatch a pawn. So that pawn is used to kick the knight back. Now here, black is pretty passive. It's got to be said. White's got a kind of dreamy position. And doesn't it look as though black might be threatening c6, kind of winning one of these knights? So would us normal people probably try and retreat one of these knights before they get forked? I mean, doing the fork like here probably is not a good idea, because we get this horrible position. But now the fork is on, right? Surely that was one of black's points, to evict these torturous knights. Okay, so what does white play here? Kasparov to play though. White's play. What does he play? Can you guess? 100 points at stake if you can guess Kasparov's move here. So you're faced with apparently your knight's getting forked by a pawn with c6. So what do you do here? Any ideas? Kasparov games are really cool, aren't they? There's a lot of guess the moves basically that you compose about them compared to like a lot of games we get nowadays. Alright, he just ignores this fork totally. He just ignores it totally. He just plays f4. Maybe sensing, you know, the queen and rook and knight are not really like here, are they, around the king? Bishops, yeah, we're cutting across the king already. So black plays c6. And white just carries on with f5. And it's dangerous. If the knight goes back, let's just imagine the knight goes back. This apparently is really strong. Bishop takes f8. And the knight e7, it would be a disaster. It would be like that's checkmate. If the knight went back here, it's probably even worse. Queen g5. If we take any knight, let's take this knight. This is just crashing through, surely. We have rook f7, this could be a demolition job. So black's king here. Black's king is going to get crushed. He may have won one of those knights, but his king is on a plate. So, no. There doesn't seem to be time here to move the knight back. If we move it here, again, white's just stripping open the f file, can immediately threaten mate. It's no good. No, we can't have this position. It's just no question. There's no question about it. The knight, it seems, cannot move. So black plays c takes d5. We have f takes, which opens up the e file only at a cost, basically at the moment, of a pawn, and even that's restored. So white's not sacrificed a thing, and he has opened up the f file. This soft spot is on target now. It is equal on pawns, but black's pawns are more fragmented. This looks terrible. We have rook e7, protecting at least f7, but this terrible pawn is now victimized. Bishop f4. This is not good. If black has to play rook d7, it looks absolutely passive. And in fact, there's a good move here for white to play here. Yeah, on stream, yeah, actually f4 is liked by at least Fritz, and yeah, and so that's, yeah, it's actually liked, that f4 move. It's like black wasn't in a position to do anything there. Okay, so here black's just played rook d7. What do you play here for 100 points? 100 points. What do you play here? Oh, I hope you're going to get this. I'm going to say it now. Knight takes d6, actually. Yeah, because if rook takes, we have c5. And this is not nice. If knight takes, it just makes things worse. We're going to win the exchange. Or worse. So, yes, not good. Not good. Black tries queen d8. Knight just retreats, so white is now a pawn up. A nice big juicy centre pawn. Knight c5. Queen e3 hitting the knight. The knight's reinforced. It's kicked away now from its perch. Goes all the way back to a6. Not good. This is not nice. Bishop g5. The queen goes to b8 here. I mean, where else? I mean, it's a pawn down anyway. If queen e8, yeah, it's, so what? Anyway, queen b8, d6. So Kasparov is not afraid to give up this b pawn here. He's not going to put resources into defending his b pawn, funny enough. He's not bothered to do that. He's got another idea here. Give up this b pawn as a kind of positional sacrifice. Knight takes b4, and the point is now bishop e7. He's cut off the rook from defending the soft spot. Yeah. So something naughty is about to happen. Yeah. After queen b7, first that disconnection. It's like a murderer in a Columbo episode taking out the phones. Yeah. The phone lines, or in a murder mystery, the phone lines have been taken out. Now, white's play. What does white play in this position? for 100 points. I mean, it's I guess you could argue it's crying out to be played. It's saying, please play me. Is there a few seconds delay? Yeah. I'll say hi over there. So white play here after queen b7. Yeah, it's crying out to be played to bring the king out. Rook takes f7. I mean, there's probably other stronger moves as well. I mean, maybe queen f4 is good. I imagine. I suppose f5 drags it on a bit. So yeah, he just takes out that f pawn. After takes, check. Now, if the king goes here, in the game we have bishop f6, which didn't help. But before we just look at that briefly, if the king did go to g8, then check is like mating, surely. It's mating 4 here, in fact. If it goes like this, queen h3, if it goes there, it's going to be mating, yeah. The king can't go to g8. Can't really go here. Rook f8, checkmate. So there's not too many options. King here, queen e5 check, and then we sort of transpose into other things. In fact, this is a mate in 3 check and mate here. So yeah, there's not too many great options for black. He tries bishop f6, but after bishop takes f6 here, black actually resigned. There's no king safety left. He resigned. If king g8, as example, bishop e7, we're back to this queen e6 business. The position is indefensible. Clearly all of black's pieces here are just not doing a thing. For king safety, the positional battle was won much earlier to get this crushing position here where nothing can help. If black tries this exchange sack, again we've now got this as a threat. Queen e5 with the idea of rook f8 is crushing. Oh, there's actually a beautiful idea here, by the way. Can you see in this position there's a beautiful mate in 4 since we're here. There's a beautiful mate in 4 in this variation. White's play here. This is just a variation which never really happened, but it's fun. Mate in 4. How good is everyone with their mate in 4s? Nice little mate in 4 test. Part of this game. Test your tactics. Anyone see the mate in 4? Give yourself 200 points if you see it. I'll give you 200 points if you see it. Mate in 4. No! On stream, not queen h8. No, but you're kind of in a sort of right direction. Black doesn't have to take here, right? It's got king g7 and you're just totally lost. But you might have a resource ingredient. There's an ingredient here, a resource that is useful to bear in mind. That kind of idea. Oh crikey, this does remind me, I saw a video by an IM on YouTube about forcing moves, and he did actually say sometimes you need to twist the move orders of your forcing moves. you need to experiment with different move orders, because sometimes different move orders cut out defensive resources. Yeah, so you want to, I'm not saying queen h8, in theory it's a useful one, right? But just the move, it's the move orders. Yeah, you play rook f8 first because there's no king g7. It's absolutely forced to play this. And now guess what? It's good, isn't it? Yeah. So if takes, we queen here. And if king f7, well, we still queen, basically. We've got two queens. And it's going to be mate. Yeah, the move orders are really crucial. We can find resources, but sometimes they don't quite work. I mean, it's important to know the opponent's resources. You can't just sack your queen and then discover the opponent's got king g7, because this is just very unfortunate. You just blundered your queen, in effect, and black's just totally winning. So yeah, move orders are pretty important. This demonstrates it kind of emphatically as an example. In fact, it's a great idea, queen h8, just the wrong kind of move order. Anyway, this is just aside from the game, really. The game was kind of ended here, by the way, after bishop takes f6. So Vukic was proved wrong. You know, Kasparov was strong enough to play in this tournament. Kasparov won it, I believe. This Banja Luka 1979. I think he won it. So the previous Banja Luka champion just completely exterminated in this game. I think problems positioning did start with these knights, but it looks as though black with knight b4 to a6 was going to kick the knights. But Kasparov kind of used the whole thing as a positional sacrifice, just to blast through the f file. And a lot of black's pieces just seems totally helpless over here. Spectator pieces, dare I say it. Spectator pieces, I've used that expression a bit. Yeah, but it's kind of relevant in Kasparov games. He does make the opponent's pieces look like spectators and not able to come to the rescue of anything. So anyway, yeah, another fun one. Okay, I've got another game to show you. Again, in the same tournament, actually, Banja Luka. So Kasparov really did well in this. This is one of the tournaments that Kasparov really emerged as a force to be reckoned with. So apparently, yeah, he was just unrated. No title, and just unrated. But the year before, he had done very well in a certain tournament, so it was a, yeah. Okay, so Kasparov against Dražan Morovic. Now, I'm saying Morovic because I'm hoping that's not too offensive if I say it like that. There's no pronunciation help, but I can tell you a bit of bio about him to make up for things. According to ChessGames.com, he's still around, 78 years old. He was born in 1938. He was awarded the GM title in 1975. In tournaments, he was first at Malaga 1968 and Zagreb 1971, second at Zagreb 1972, first at Virotica 1978 and Maxim 1982. He is also an author of note, so a very strong player. So 4 years before this game, he'd got his GM title. Let's see, Kasparov playing white, c4. We have e6, knight f3, d5, d4, knight f6, knight c3, bishop e7. So Queen's Gambit declined so far. Black castles, e3. Okay, so here, yeah, two of the most common moves are actually not moving this bishop, by the way. It's either here or here. Just waiting for black maybe to play d takes without having to lose the tempo with the bishop. So they're both kind of waiting moves. Queen c 2 is played. Black plays c5, and in fact this bishop is not bothered with at all. Quite often c takes d5 is played in this position, for example like this, with supposedly a kind of equalish position. But here we get white castling queenside. So that puts the cat among the pigeons, castling queenside. Queen a5, king b1, h6. Bishop doesn't bother moving, just h4. We've got a nice fishing pole with the bishop, which I do appreciate. Fishing poles in bullet chess, they really win a lot of games up to a certain rating of opponent. So the bishop's just left there. Clearly it's going to be far too dangerous to take this bishop. It's going to be like horrible. No, this is just going to be too dangerous, this position. If we have a position like this, it's end of game. That's it. Yeah. No, the bishop cannot be taken. We have d takes c4, bishop takes c4, knight b6. Might not be optimal for black, apparently. Apparently c takes d4 might be better, or rook d8. So anyway, knight b6. Kasparov actually gives up his dark square bishop. Bishop takes f6. No time to take here. We can just take on e7, for example, or even it might even be strong. Yeah. So black recaptures now with the pawn. Actually, he doesn't use the bishop. Strangely, perhaps he should consider taking with the bishop. Maybe he was worried about knight e4 with tempo. But this position might actually be apparently okay-ish. Advantage to white, but okay-ish. But strangely, he took with the pawn actually. G takes f6. It doesn't immediately look as though the pawns are meaning white's mating black immediately. Bishop still attacks. It moves to e2. But this is a file here. White can potentially maneuver a rook to this file. And furthermore, I'm not entirely sure if e5 is not really that possible to rule this out. Black took on d4. E takes d4. I don't think e5 here is advisable. Even though it covers h3. This wasn't played. Black played bishop d7. If we try and cover h3, takes. This is a weak pawn. Queen e4. What does black do here? Say goes back here. This is like losing material to the check. That file is dangerous. We can either take here or even apparently stronger as this. Just going in for the kill. And we're threatening to win the queen as well. It's horrible. Horrible. No, you can't play e5 with black here. But guess what? After bishop d7, rook h3 comes in then. Is it dangerous? Is it actually murderous? That's the question. Knight a4, check, king h8. Surely without a dark square bishop we can't get onto this diagonal, but that pawn is loose and it's eyed with queen d2. Knight takes c3. White is not going to be distracted. B takes c3, still threatening queen h6, mate in 1. The king comes to protect here. What else? If queen h5, I wouldn't have thought so. Knight e5 hitting the queen. And if check, yeah, this is not too hot. This position, we could just pick up the bishop. So the queen can't come to the rescue. It's only the king can self-service his own defense with king h7. Problem with that is now check forces f5. The problem with this is it weakens the e5 square. That means the knight goes into e5, hitting the bishop. The bishop moves. Looks as though this might be one of the better moves actually available to black. If bishop e8, white could end the game just here, just finish it with bishop e8 immediately. Can you see a winning move for white here? White to play here. This wasn't in the game. We have bishop b5 in the game. What does white play here which just ends the game? What does white play in this position which would end the game, essentially? It's knight g4 actually. The power of the pinned piece is illusionary. This is the illusionary one. Knight g4, and we've got queen h6. There's no way of defending that apart from giving up a piece, which is not very clever. So yeah, that would end the game. With bishop b5, black's keeping in the game for a moment longer. Because knight g4, we can now play bishop takes and rook g8, and if this, then we can take there. So this keeps black in the game for a moment. Bishop b5, good move. Now an awkward looking move. I mean, it looks a little bit strange. Rook f3. Looks strange, but it does mean the g pawn is free for g4. Trying to hammer this diagonal. It's putting pressure on f5 as well. Black plays f6 here. Apparently bishop f6 might be worth investigating, but anyway, we'll go with what black played, f6. There's knight c4 hitting the queen. Queen goes to c7, hitting the bishop now. White defends this with queen e2, also threatening. Queen takes e6, and that's problematic for black. There's pressure on e6. If queen, say queen c6, black actually took on c4. He plays this. Actually, there's quite a crunching move here on queen c6. This is an interesting tactical test as well. Can you see what a bone crushing move would be here? White to play. Can you see what white can play here? Oh, rook takes f5 apparently is really strong. Funny enough. I wonder why. If bishop takes c4, there's rook takes f6 is check. And this is like a forced mate actually. If takes here, it's like a forced mate. Because here we're going here, and then we're like around the black's king. You see that's going to end up in checkmate. Otherwise, well, yeah, it's a forced mate. If king h8, then there's rook takes h6. Again, it's pretty much a forced checkmate in 2 from here. So yeah, bad idea apparently to play queen c6 in this position. Yeah, because the rook takes f5. If e takes, let's just have a look at that. Better than queen takes here is apparently check. And queen h5. This is a forced mate in 7 now. There's no defense around the king in this position. Again, we've got a couple of spectator pieces here, dare I say it. There's no real defense around here. So I think I've realized what my attacking chess is missing. It's missing that level of sophistication that you first make sure the pieces are spectators, then you go on the crude attack later, and the opponent will be defenseless, utterly defenseless. So that's an important ingredient for the attacking player to bear in mind. So anyway, here after queen e2, we have bishop takes c4, giving up the light square bishop. Bishop takes c4. Looks terrible. This pressure on this pawn chain looks absolutely horrendous. e5, rook takes f5, basically opening up more light squares like this diagonal. As example, maybe even to the queen or the bishop. We have bishop a3. Black is not threatening anything too significant around white's king here. Queen goes to e4. Pressing rook takes f6, discovered check. King gets out of the way. Rook h5. Black now tries to defend with queen h7. And although he might be defending the position, his king's not getting mated. He's losing a lot of pawns here. He's lost a lot of pawns. Kasparov actually just cashes out in terms of material. He just takes here. And it doesn't matter about opposite coloured bishops. Also, this rook, though, is coming to d7. Is also still got some mating ideas. Potentially. King g6, g4. Now takes rook d7. Threatening a mate in 5 with rook takes e5 apparently. You know, because then we got things like h5. And it's going to be a mate sequence. This looks very difficult to defend. Rook a e8. Another pawn bites the last. Rook takes b7. I'm a bit surprised actually after rook takes b7. Technically it seems black is less than a pawn down after rook takes f2. So Kasparov mucked this up. Did he have something stronger? Is it just enough to win here? Rook takes a7. Bishop goes to f8. Check. This is again very, very good for white now. We have rook f5. So hitting that rook. What does black do? He doesn't really want to take here because this is a nasty pawn. Very nasty pawn. He actually, well, it's not great anyway. He plays rook. Well, actually, the engine suggested rook g2. He did actually take on f5. Giving that nasty pawn. I don't think rook g2 is much better. g5 it looks horrible. So he actually did take on f5, pardon me. After g takes, just resigned. and it's all of a sudden it is a massive advantage to white again. Opposite colour bishops, but terrible for black here. As example, let's imagine black plays e4 like this. Yeah, we've got outside pass pawn here. It's pretty passive for black. I think it's just a slow grind. It's a slow grind from this position. This pawn can easily be blocked. This kind of thing, it's tie black down. There must be a winning procedure here. Except Fritz is hopeless at endings. Fritz is hopeless at endings. Let me put on another Kibitzer here to assess this. Put on Houdini. I have to bring out Houdini. Who thinks it's about equal? No! Let's rewind. Okay, hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. Why did black resign this? Hang on. Opposite coloured bishops. I know, opposite coloured bishops sometimes do offer drawing chances. It does look like a fortress draw. It looks like a fortress draw to Houdini as well now. What is this? I'm going to have to look at some comments. Did black have to resign here? Was he just convinced he was lost? Is this one of those games he was convinced he was lost? Rook f5 and black resigns. Oh, hang on. I think Houdini's found something here. Sorry, pardon me. It's found a way of getting a big advantage. King d3, bishop c5, king e4. We still got a lock on the pawn. King f6, king d5, bishop a3, bishop e2. Are we breaking this down? No, we're breaking this down. Are we breaking this fortress down? E7 check winning here, for example. Not c7, king d7, but king c5. This is now winning. Yeah, because if king d7 we got the check. So yeah, if it found a win, actually, you have to leave the engines on long enough sometimes. So apparently there's a win here with king d3, according to Houdini. This is like a big advantage to white with that kind of sequence. Now I'm glad I've got Houdini as a backup engine for these endgames. You need one which, yeah, you need to check all your engines if you're analysing endgames. So run that through again. Bishop c5. Black is just not able to withstand the pressure here. I'm not even sure h5 is necessary. Also, we can just play this, and here black's not withstanding the pressure. Yeah, we can just queen win the bishop there. Okay, so yeah, apparently the king waltzes in with king d3. This wins this ending. Right. I mean, sometimes, yeah, the opposite colour bishop endings are, you know, you can build the fortresses. I wonder actually if we went earlier though. It seemed like it was going to be a crushing attack. This kind of position after queen h7, black has pinned the queen to the king. If white tries to avoid, it's probably going to be a disaster. This is just pathetic to do this, to try and keep the queens on. That's just asking for big trouble. So white had to get the queens off. So black did force this opposite kind of bishop scenario. And again, you know, black's play is kind of resourceful actually, because I mean, what else apart from g4 here? And bishop e2 wasn't particularly great either. F takes. We're still opening up on f2. So we had this sequence where black was getting f2, just about enough to win this technically. But yeah, maybe black did prematurely should have tested it for a bit. I don't know. Okay, so this game was ambitious as well, because Kasparov was like castling queenside when most people just play in a boring way. He castles queenside and takes some risks, and paid off, maybe psychologically as well. So another interesting game. I hope you found these 3 games very interesting and some of the variations fun. Okay, comments, questions, likes appreciated. See you next week for the next exciting installment of this. Okay, thanks very much.